Hi everyone. Today we're going to go ahead and use the pen tool in conjunction with our brush tool to make our brush strokes more precise and to follow along the path of our pen tool. So here's the file called pen and tool stroke. And what we're going to do is start with the new instructions at the top. Um, Everything's self-explanatory up here at the top. I'm going to kind of read along the top of our screen right here. So the first thing we do, it says to add a new layer. So you must come over here to your layers toolbar. And at the very bottom right, next to the trash can, second tool from the right is actually new layer. And what this allows us to do is when we have a new layer, if something happens that we don't like, you go ahead and paint and you mess it all up. What we can do is just go ahead and turn this layer off and get rid of the whole thing at once because we're on a separate layer by itself. Let me go ahead and add a new layer again, which is just this one right next to the trash can. And we're going to be working on layer 2 here. Step number 1, set your brush size first, or set your brush first, which means we need to try to match this blue soft brush as close as possible. Let's see what I have in my hand right now. I am on my brush tool. Let's just kind of give it a paint to see what it looks like. All right, the size looks pretty close. It's a soft brush, it has that fuzzy edge, but the color is wrong. So let me go Control Z to undo what I just did. I'm going to go over to my swatches and click on this nice bright blue. And let's double check. This should be pretty close. Yeah, that's close enough. Let's Control Z to undo that. Now I'm going to go to step 2. Select the pen tool, and you got to make sure it says path at the top of the toolbar. So your pen tool is over here, and you guessed it, P is the shortcut for pen tool, P for pen. But I'm just going to, since I'm here, let's go and select the pen tool. And mine already says path up here. The only other option is it could be set to shape, but we're going to leave it right here, selected to path. And step number 3, use the pen tool to define the path. And for these straight lines, I'm just going to single click. Do not click and drag. And we just need to be somewhat accurate. It doesn't need to be perfect. So click, 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 click. I'm going to kind of do this fast. Click. Let's come down over here. All right, so here's my path. Now I'm going to use this path for my brush to paint exactly over it, and that way we could have our brush stroke nice and precise. That's step number 4. All we got to do is right click, stroke path, and make sure it says brush. Select brush. So right click, stroke path, and this, the first time you use it, it's going to be on pencil. You need to change this drop down to brush. And for these first 3 lines, we need to uncheck simulate pressure. So make sure simulate pressure is unchecked. Go ahead and click OK. And there we go. Okay, once your brush stroke appears, to get rid of that path, I'm just going to enter on the keyboard. Enter, and that path goes away. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'll do this third one, this pink magenta color. So I'm going to go back to my brush tool, B for brush on my keyboard, and I know I need to at least change my color. I'm going to click on magenta over here in my swatches, and I'm going to change it to a hard brush. Take the hardness and to go all the way up to 100%. And the next thing we do is make it smaller by using the brackets on my keyboard, the square parentheses. The left bracket makes your brush smaller, and let's go ahead and check that. Pretty close. Control Z. I'm going to go 1 left bracket, click again. Left bracket makes it smaller, and that's pretty close. Okay, now that I am holding the correct brush in my hand, I'm going to define the path. So let's go to our pen tool, or just click P on your keyboard, and click, 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 click. All right, now on to step 4. Right click, stroke path. I have it on brush. Simulate pressure is unchecked. And there we go. Okay, once that's done, like I said last time, just go ahead and enter and the path disappears. Let's go to these other ones that kind of start off skinny, get a little thicker, and then end skinny also. That is what we consider simulating pressure, as if you're holding a paintbrush. When you kind of start off lightly on your paper, push a little harder when it gets thicker, and then kind of softly exit the paper to nice and thin. So let me first switch brushes. This is going to be a bright green, so let's go back to brush. Here's my paintbrush, or B for brush. I'm going to go to this nice bright lime green. I need to make the paintbrush larger for sure, so right bracket, right bracket, right bracket. That's pretty close, but that's a hard brush. Let's go back up to our brush settings and take the hardness back down to 0% to make it blurry. And I'm just trying to match the middle part, the thicker part of the stroke. I'm going to go into again, Control Z to undo that. And let's define the path. So P for pen, change over my pen tool. And with the pen tool, these are the ones where we have to click and drag for curves. To get curves, we're going to click and drag the anchor point, the handlebar I call them, a little bit longer, about there. Don't go too crazy. I'm going to come over to the next curve, which here's the curve, but I'm going to do it right over here. I'm going to click and drag, kind of get a nice little bend. Over on this side, click and drag for a nice little bend. I'll do one more in this area, but over here, click and drag. Let's, how about one at the bottom? One at this kind of sharp corner here. Maybe one here for a nice curve, and maybe just a little tip. Oh, nope, Control Z, I don't want that one. I'm just going to leave it there. All right, so I've got my path set. I've got my brush set. And this one, the only difference is we're going to make sure we check box simulate pressure. Right click, stroke path, brush, simulate pressure this time. Go ahead and click OK. And there we go. And now let's say we had the wrong brush. We don't have to stop there. If we wanted to, you could just Control Z. That will undo that stroke. I can go back to my brush. I could change it to a different color if I wanted, as if we made a mistake. Let's change it to magenta just for fun. There I have, and again, let's just check. That's what brush I have in my hand right now. I changed it. Control Z. I could go back to my pen tool, right click, stroke path, simulate pressure is check marked. Okay. And there we go. But that's obviously wrong. So let me just switch it back. Control Z, B for brush, back to my brush tool, switch it to green, go back to my pen tool, P for pen, and right click, stroke path, simulate pressure. All right, and then once you're all done with that, hit enter. And if you want to watch one more time, let me do this red one. I'm going to click and drag, click and drag, click and drag just on the outside corners of this little curve here, click and drag. Now, but I didn't change, I made a mistake. I did not change my brush first. So let's go B for brush, and I got to switch it to red. As I can see right over here, I'm still on this lime green. Let's go to my red brush, but I'm on a brush now. You got to go back to your pen tool, P for pen, right click, stroke, and go ahead and enter, or OK, enter. And there we go. We're all done. Let's hit enter. All right, I hope you found this helpful. Later on, we'll be doing an assignment that utilizes this technique. It's really fun and really powerful to do some fun stuff in Photoshop. Thank you for watching.